morning, peeps. It's Chris from Socially Awkward Stitching Society, and I'm just popping in to do a how-to video for our sanitizer holders and our doggy poop bag holders. But I also got something very special in the mail today, and I wanted to share it. So this is the package I've been waiting for all day, and I kept telling my husband, please, please, please tell me when it's here. This is a package from Embroidery, which is one of my favorite places to get vinyl. And I was really pushing this this little tutorial out, hoping this would come so we might be able to use some goodies from in here. So let's take a look and see what they sent this time. I don't quite remember even what I ordered. This was on, I ordered it on Tuesday, and I've already got it from Nebraska to Spokane, Washington this quickly. So I got some goodies here. This is me trying to try some stuff out and see if I liked it. Some of their patent, ooh, sticky. Some of their patent vinyls. Oh, gorgeous. Oh my gosh, look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. So they're at mypunkbroidery.com, and I encourage you to take a look because I love supporting small business, and they've just got absolutely beautiful stuff. Just gorgeous selection. It always stitches up really well. Their white vinyl is amazing. It doesn't have that problem with excess softness. This gold marine is one of my favorites too. So just a little shout out to them. So I'm going to go choose which one of these beautiful pieces we want to start to work with. Oh, look at the plaid there. And I'll get the pieces pre-cut, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about how we're going to put this together. Today we're going to be doing this ribbon heart sanitizer holder. And I think we're going to goth it up a little bit using some of the vinyl I just got from Embroidery. I've never stitched on their black patent vinyl, but I think we'll give it a shot and see how it works out. So when you download your design, in that zip folder, once you unzip it, you're going to find a color change sheet, which is what I've got right here. You're also going to find some step-by-step instructions, and those will tell you what size you need to cut the vinyl for this project. It's 7 by 3 3/4. You can certainly round up to 4. So I have one piece for the front, which is the vinyl. I have a piece of what is called Oly Fun. I ordered this off Etsy. You can get it at some craft stores, and it's basically the same stuff that they make the reusable grocery bags out of. So this makes a really nice thin lining. It doesn't ravel, so you can use it along with vinyl without having to stitch the edges. And you can also, though, use felt if you find this hard to find. I've done that before as well on the sanitizer holders. You're also going to need another piece of vinyl for the back, which is about 2.5 by 3 3/4. And so I've cut that as well. So there are our pieces that we've cut. Now let's take a minute and look at the color stops. So front page gives you a picture of the design. It shows you where the center is. I'm going to flip it over now, and here are the color stops. So I've changed the way I've started doing these, and I'm doing them in a way I hope will be more clear. So remember that in the hoop design, you're going to have color stops that their only job is to stop the machine. I'm going to thread up with Isacord 1904, which is my favorite deep red. And I'm going to just leave that thread in through the whole process because it's not going to matter. Some of these are just stopping the machine so that we can add lining, add the back, etc. So if we look at these stops, the first one is called applique position. You're going to stitch that right on your stabilizer so that you know where to put your vinyl. The second one is actually the design, and I'm going to use Isacord 1904 for that. You can use whatever you like. And the third one is where you attach the lining. And so I've now added this language to color stops to hopefully help you know when to stop according to the directions you'll also have, and add the lining. And then the final stop is going to attach the backing. All right, so we're going to slide this over. And of course, the very first thing that you want to do when you're getting ready to sew this is you're going to hoop up some stabilizer. This is a nice light design, and so I'm going to go ahead and use a tearaway. If you're using a denser design, or if your vinyl is really stretchy or soft, you're going to want to use a cutaway. But I checked this vinyl out and I cannot stretch it. So it should stand up pretty well with just a little bit of support from the tearaway. So I'm going to go off and do color stop 1 to get our position, and then I will be right back. All right, here we are. We've got our placement stitch on our stabilizer, and now it's time to add the vinyl. And we've talked about this before in other videos, but basically what you're going to want to do is make sure that you've got about a 1/2 inch overlap or more on each edge. I'm going to use blue painter's tape to secure this. And let's see if I can get away with just doing the corners. This is pretty curly because it came off of a roll. So I may want to put a little on the sides just in case my machine decides to travel over to the side when it's in between color stops and move back and forth. It won't catch that edge. So I know a lot of people just lay their vinyl in and maybe they kind of hold it down till it gets started, but I am concerned that I am not coordinated enough to keep my fingers out from under the needle. So we've got that taped in, and I'm going to go and do our second color stop, which will be the Isocord 1904. And of course you can use any color you want and any type of thread that you want for this. And then I'll be right back. All right, here's our stitch design. It's a super quick stitch, so if you're bulk making these for sale, this is one that's going to allow you to get things done really quickly and has a lot of versatility that you can do with different colors. So I've stitched stop 2, we're at stop 3, which is attach the lining. You're going to do this on the back. So you're going to flip this over, and here's our lining. As soon as you start attaching things on the back that are going to show, and this will show at the top here where the tab is going to be, you want to make sure to change your bobbin thread out. So I'm going to pop out my white, my basic white bobbin thread that I use while I'm doing the design, and replace it with a little bit of the Isocord poly that I'm using on the front. Put that on a little bit of that on a bobbin so that I have matching thread on both sides. So I'm going to go stitch that color stop, and then I'll be back. Okie dokie, artichokes. I have stitched color stop 3, and this attaches the lining to the front because these are areas that are not going to be stitched when you attach the backing. So this will be the opening, and since you don't want to stitch that shut, you're going to stitch to the back to the lining first, and then the stitching to attach the back will just run here and here. I wanted to show you, so I'm really happy with how this is stitching out so far. The shine from the pattern is really picking up on the thread and also making that have a really nice sheen to it. So I'm really happy with it. Now I wanted to show you how to fix a little problem that sometimes happens, and it happened here. I am not sure how well you're going to be able to see this on video, but I've got a little thread right here that looped, and I find that happens on vinyls like this vinyl that can be a little sticky, and so I'm going to see if I can fix this, and I have a couple ways that I go about it, and you have to do this before you put you can do this after, but I'm going to see if I can do it right now without messing anything up. So what I do is I flip it over and I look at where is that spot, and it's just maybe, I don't know, 5/8 of an inch down from the top. I'm going to take this off because it's in my way, and I'm going to try to see if I can pull it down just by doing that. You don't want to pull too hard because remember, we're only using tearaway here, and that helped it a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my fingernail and kind of scratch at these bobbin threads to pull that through. It's almost fixed. I think after I get it out of the hoop, I'm going to be able to use a little more energy on that, a little more pressure, and get that, and scratch on that, and get that stitch pulled down flat. I'm not sure why this happens, but my guess is that just as the vinyl feels sticky, like after you cut it, sometimes it'll stick to your plastic ruler. I think what happens is that it's sticking to the needle a bit, and it may be collapsing. It may be creating a drag that causes the thread not to get pulled all the way down. But it's usually a minor problem, and like I said, you can usually fix it just by either pulling up between your lining and your stabilizer, or by scratching on the back of it. So let me show you now. Here's a slight difference between the hand sanitizer and the dog poop holder bags. Dog poop bag holder, that's what it is. So the only real difference is the position of this opening. This one's a little bit taller to accommodate the bags, and it's, I think it's a tiny smidge narrower, and the opening is smaller so that you don't have your bags unspooling. And I put it on the side because I think it feeds better that way. So this is what you'll have after your third color stop on the Sani bag and our Sani holder, and then this is what you'll have after your third stop on the dog poop bag holders. All right, time to attach the backing. I'm going to flip this over, and I've got my piece of backing cut, and I'm making sure that that's going to be long enough. Yes, it is. I think I cut the lining a little bit long. So you're going to use these little marks here to line up your backing, and you want to use the nicest cut edge that you have, which I think on this is probably that one. So I'm going to lay that there and get my trusty tape and pop that there and pop that there. Okay, I'm going to show you another little trick. So remember I mentioned that this vinyl is kind of sticky. Anything with a glossy surface, often in vinyl, glitter vinyls, patent finishes, tends to stick to things. When I was cutting this, I lifted up my ruler and I quite literally stuck to my ruler. This can catch and stick to the plate on your machine. That can even happen with regular vinyl if you live in a humid climate. I don't, but I've had it happen with this glossy vinyl even though I live in a really dry climate. So here's my favorite way to deal with this. Some people put parchment paper over the bed of their machine, and then have a hole for the needle to go through. But I like to see what I'm doing here. Rotary cutter, there it is. I like to just put some of this really thin water-soluble stabilizer over the back once I've got my vinyl on there. And now I would recommend taping all four corners, because if you don't, I can guarantee you when you try to slide it in there, it's probably going to fold over and make a mess. Ask me how I know that. All right, there we go. So when I put this down toward the bed of the machine, this is going to keep it sliding nice and smooth. It's super easy to take off as opposed to using some kind of a paper or other kind of stabilizer, because if you get little bits stuck under the stitches, you just wipe it with a wet cloth and you're good to go. All right, I'm going to go stitch the final stop here, attach the backing, and then we'll come talk about cutting these out. And we are done stitching. So here's what it looks like once you've got your final step in. We've got our outline all the way around, and on the back you can see it has attached this backing, but it's left this part open. So let's go ahead and pop it out of the hoop. I had it hooped pretty tight. Let's pop it out, and I'll show you how I like to cut these. Now, this is a tearaway, as I mentioned. If you use a cutaway, you're not going to do this step. You're just going to cut the stabilizer when you cut the cut out the vinyl. But since I've used a tearaway, we can get rid of it first. So I'm gonna get my tapey tape off. All right, there goes the tape. I'm going to get this out of the way too now so you can see how well that pulls off of there. And if you do have little bits left stuck in there, you just put a wet washcloth right across it and you're good to go. All right, let's get rid of our stabilizer. There we go. And right there, I've got that little tack strip and I want to get that out, so I'm just going to do that. I try not to put those too far away because I want you to be able to see them to align, and I also don't want to make the design any bigger than it really has to be. Okay, that's looking pretty good. That was probably not the safest way to do that. Use your common sense, not mine. All right. So now I'm going to kind of go up in here. I think it helps the tearaway come away a little cleaner if you kind of run your finger along it. And so a lot of times I'll go in like this and just kind of, it almost scores it, I think, if you do that. Just kind of fold it and let it come out. All right, that's pretty good. All right, now, if you really wanted to, you could cut this all by hand using something like these duck-billed applique scissors, but I don't really want to. So I'm going to get one of my quilting rulers. Now watch what happens when let's see if this, see how that sticks? That's what you're trying to avoid on your machine when you put down that water-soluble stabilizer on the back. All right. So what I like to do it a hair under 1/8 of an inch. So this one works really well. Actually, I'm going to use my long one because I think you'll be able to see it better with yellow. Let's try this. So I have it lined up so that this stitching line, I'm going to cut all the straight lines that I can with my rotary cutter because that will make sure they're nice and straight and nice and even. And I'm going to line it up so it's just within that 1/8 inch mark there on the edge. It's a little tricky to do on camera because I can't be right over it like I normally would be. When you're doing this, you want to have this work right looking so you can look straight down on it to make sure that you've got it nice and straight. Okay, there's one side. Let's flip over onto this side here. There's the second side. Now even though these have curved corners, I'm still going to use this technique to get as much cut off as I can. So here, because then all I have to do is round the corners with my scissors. Okay. All right. Here's where it gets a little tricky, but I think it's worth it. And I actually cut these, depending on what size hardware I'm going to use, I may cut these a little smaller. So I'm using a 3/4 instead of an inch lobster claw on this. So I'm going to bring this in a little thinner. So it's more like a 1/16 of an inch, just so that that fits better. If you're using a 1 inch, you can stay with the same measurement you had up above. And I'm not going to cut all the way the stitching, but I'm going to cut as close as I can without having disaster strike. And I'm going to do this edge, and I'm going to start away from the stitching, push down. Okay, that gives you little flappies there. Ooh, that did not cut very cleanly. I need to order some more rotary cutter blades. I tend to be pretty hard on them. I seem to constantly be nicking them. And again, it's a little thinner on this tab part. Okay. Now, to finish this off, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to use this as a guide to just get the little parts that didn't cut with the rotary cutter. And I'm just going to cut in. I slightly overcut that intentionally. I want to slightly cut past the line. It just makes things come apart easier. This is kind of tricky to do far away from me. I'm usually right over my work when I do this. Here, let's do this. We've got a little bit of stabilizer that just keeps getting in the way. Okay. Now, you'll get the idea here. You don't normally want to snap the ends of your scissors together, but there we go. All right. And I'll probably go in there and clean up, make sure I've got all the stabilizer out of there. But you can see here, again, do as I say, not as I do. Try not to snap your scissor ends. All right. Then I'm going to trim this. I confess, it takes me sometimes a couple of shots of going around the top of this to get it even. But since it's on the back, I don't really worry about it. Yeah, let's get rid of that little sharp corner. I'm going to call that good enough. All right, and then I'm going to trim these, and you just kind of want to pick up where that edge is and roll it right around, and then finish off where that edge is. Try not to get too much of a point there. I have to tell you, it is sweltering right now. I turned off all my fans that blow. We have one air conditioning vent in our upstairs. We have an old house. And I use fans to blow that cold air into my studio. But I turned them off so you can hear me. It's 105 here today with wildfire smoke in the unhealthy range. So it's not very pleasant outside right now, and I'm getting a little warm without those fans going. Okay, one more, you get the idea. Okay, that was kind of quick and dirty. You know, take your time, keep it right in front of you. I even have a giant magnifier that's got a light in it that I use for cross stitch that actually works really well for this if you have trouble seeing what you're doing because you got old eyes like I do. All right, and then I'm just going to cut out the opening. Again, try to keep that upright. You know, the other thing you can do on the backs of these is use less expensive vinyl. So if you want to use something really pretty on the front and then get just like a basic marine for the back, you can do that too. Or I like my Embroidery has a nice black matte canvas. Doesn't stick to the bed of the machine, and it's really thin, so it fits really nicely on the back. So there we go. This is our sanitizer holder. I'm going to go gather all my hardware, and then I'm going to show you how to punch this. There's a little trick to doing it on the back. Alrighty, I've got all my gadgets and findings gathered here, except as usual I forgot to grab a lobster claw, but I'll do that in a second. So hole punch, on mine it's the smallest setting. You can use an awl, but I like to try to get a little bit of the bulk out of there. So first I'm going to punch the strap. Since this is kind of a thin vinyl, oh, I can use those. Normally, if you've got a strap like this and if you have 2 layers of vinyl, you're going to want to use a long prong snap. And if you're going through 2 or more. But this is a fairly thin vinyl plus the Oly Fun. I think I'm going to be able to get away with a standard, which means I can do something kind of fun here. So I'm going to put the pokey outy side. We're not going to use that one. I'm going to grab another one in a minute. We're going to use the pokey outy side on the strap. I'm going to put this heart-shaped one right there. Flip it over, Put that there. And you remember that this is going to come down like this, so you want to make sure the heart is right side up facing this way. Or maybe you don't. Maybe it's an upside down heart is a heart in distress. All right. I'm going to pop them in my press. And this part's always tricky to show. I think I've got it lined up right. Okay, sandwiched in my press. Ha! Yes. Excellent. It'll even let me turn it just a little bit since I got it a little bit crooked. Now this next part's a little tricky. What you want to do is take your strap and fold it down and figure out where the center, roughly where the center of your snap's going to be. Now this does not have to be perfect. I'm just feeling right there, and I can see it's going to go right about there. So what I'm going to do is cup this a little bit to get this in here. See if I can do this without too much error, since it's kind of under the camera and it's hard to see. I'm going to go right about, you want to go about in the middle, as close as you can. I'm holding the pliers straight with the strap, and I think that's helping me find close to center. If you really want to get fussy about it, you can certainly measure it and put a little mark there, or a little dimple. Oh, so close. Okay. I really do need a new hole punch. I say that every time. Okay. I think I got it. Yeah. Sometimes if you can just get a little of it out of the way, you can use little, these are my thread snips that I normally keep at the machine. I'm just going to cut a little spot out of there. Okay. So now it's centered-ish. I'm going to grab another one of those heart-shaped ones because that's kind of fun. Now this time it goes inside the pocket, so you don't get to see it, but I want to use a standard prong for this because it's only one layer and it's really thin. If I use a long prong right here, it's probably going to be kind of sloppy. So it doesn't matter since you can't see it. I've got the pokey any part, and this can be a little interesting. You kind of have to fold it out. If I get it sort of set here, I'll show you what this looks like. Just like that. Sorry, didn't mean to give you motion sickness. All right, so let's see if that pushed enough to snap. Yes, it did. All right, so there you have it. 2-ounce bottle of sanitizer. Slips right in there. And you can thread this with any kind of D-ring or split ring or a lobster claw, anything you really want to use. I've got some split rings. I think these are probably a little stronger than using lobster claws, if it's something that is actually going to be hanging off of you in some way. So there you go. All right. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I'll be looking for your questions in the comments, and hit the subscribe button to always get the latest on what the designs we're producing and how to make them. And oh, one final thing before we go, a little hint, old t-shirts. That'll help get your fingerprints off of the patent. So until next time, bye-bye.